What's going on? Welcome into another episode of Always Talking Ball. I'm Tyler Noe. Lance Spartan is here as well. We've got a lot to get to on our show tonight. We're going to give you our Week 2 top 12. We're going to do a little guess the spread with Lance Spartan, and then we're going to break down some of the games that happened this past weekend. I feel like we learned so much more about teams in Week 2 than we do in Week 1. This one's going to be a tough one for me. At least the first segment is. But yeah, again, if you're not subscribed, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, those are the main ones. But if you're listening to podcasts somewhere else, you can find us there as well. Just make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share it. We appreciate it. Yesterday, 6 ranked teams went down, and there's really no other place for this podcast to start than in South Bend, Indiana, where the number 5 Notre Dame Fighting Irish took on the Northern Illinois Panthers and or Huskies, whatever the heck they're called, and
The Huskies.
the Huskies. They fell to them. They fell to them, man. What a difference a week makes. I mean, here we are last week. We're talking about Notre Dame getting the 5 seed. They're getting that lowly G5 champ at home in the playoffs, and they couldn't even beat a so-called middling G5 team at home. And it just hurts, man. But for me, I feel like I'm so calloused towards this. This has happened so many times over the years that I just shrug it off. I mean, it is what it is. It's not disappointing anymore. It just kind of is what it is. A lot of questions need to be raised about Marcus Freeman. That's life as a college football head coach, right? I mean, Marcus Freeman was sky high last week. Nothing could be bad that was said about him last week. This week, they want him gone. And people actually want him fired, right? And honestly, I can't blame him.
I heard the boos.
He's got 3 home losses in his 3 years when he's been favored of over 16. Yesterday, they were favored by 28 points, 4 touchdowns.
Didn't he lose to Marshall at home too?
Lost to Marshall, lost to Stanford at home. That was his first year. You get a little pass, but in your third year, especially coming off a win, and honestly, in retrospect, like I said, everybody who was asking me how Notre Dame was going to do this week, I said I would take Northern Illinois plus 28. It's going to be hard for them to get up to the level that they were in College Station. I didn't expect an outright loss. Let's be honest with that.
Agreed.
But it just in retrospect too, I mean, just the way they went about themselves after the game. I mean, I didn't see anything like publicly, but you see stuff, locker room and just kind of, celebrating over it. It was a big win, sure, but you'd love to see a team kind of act like they've been there before, like they were, act like they, we wanted to go into College Station. We knew we were going to win the game, so it's not that big of a deal. But it is what it is, man. I mean, I told everyone I could, if I were a betting man, I would take NIU plus 28. But I think a lot of this, the offense has serious question marks. And I know Riley Leonard was super impressive last week, but he struggled big time yesterday. Yeah. And Mike Denbrock, I mean, he's a great offensive coordinator, and it's going to take him a little while to find out the right guys to use and the right scheme to use. I mean, Jeremiah Love, after that sensational touchdown run yesterday in the third quarter, had 1 carry for 3 yards. Like, what are you doing? Right? And I know Notre Dame's offensive line is young, and good night. They could not stop Ontario Brown. I mean, he had 225 total yards, and it was just all around a colossal mess, and there's really not much else to say about it from my end. I mean, I know you got some stuff to say, and it's just I chalk it up to life as a Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, well, I had a lot of people texting me on your about you yesterday, wanting to check on you. Folks from Alabama, folks from Houston, Texas, even Emily, my wife. She was like, "How is Tyler?" And you honestly just said it. I said, "It's sad to say this about my boy, but I think he's just conditioned for this. I think Notre Dame fans, level-headed Notre Dame fans, are just conditioned for this. This is the life of you being a fan of that team. And yeah, I mean, as far as the matchup during the game, you actually covered what I really wanted to say. I said at the end of the day, if Riley Leonard's struggling, he doesn't have it, the passing game's not there, whatever. Notre Dame against a MAC team. I don't care how good Northern Illinois is in the MAC. This is no disrespect to Northern Illinois, but just the reality is Notre Dame should be able to line up with those big boys up front and Jeremiah Love and whoever else at tailback and run the damn football.
Yep.
And they weren't able to do that. And like you said, I thought the same thing there late in third quarter, fourth quarter. Like, why weren't they feeding the rock to Love? That just, was strange. And that was as shocking of a loss, I think, as that I can, I know there's some every year, one or two every year, but that's up there. Definitely did not have that on the bingo card for the weekend. And I agree with you, Northern Illinois plus 28. When you're betting on games, you look at 18 to 23-year-olds, heck, I guess now 25, 26-year-olds with some of these teams. I mean, you find flat spots. You find, teams riding a high and they have to get up the next week. They can't get up, just like you said. But it was strange, man. And I will say this: hats off to Northern Illinois. What a huge win for that program. I was sitting there watching the game and seeing some of Northern Illinois fans in the stands, and that falls under the category of sometimes when I think that we're as big a college football fans as we could possibly be. Think of how big of a fan you have to be of a sport or of a team to be like a diehard fan of Northern Illinois football. And then to be a fan like that and to travel to South Bend to the Golden Dome and see a win like that.
Yeah.
But honestly, man, there's really nothing else to say other than it's going to be interesting as far as like, if Notre Dame loses to Northern Illinois, why would you think they could run the table? But
here's the thing. I mean, in the play, that's the thing people hate about the 12-team playoff is Notre Dame could still run the table from here on out, and they would make the playoff. And I mean, again, if they ran the table against the teams that they have ahead of them, obviously, I mean, that would prove the Northern Illinois game would be more like an aberration. Okay, like it's just like a one-off thing. Like they just didn't play their best. Watching them yesterday, you're not going to expect them to run the table.
I agree.
It just is what it is. For them, it's still the lack of playmakers. They've got the running backs. The lack of playmakers on the outside is just killing them repeatedly. They have not had a guy like that since probably like a Will Fuller, right? I mean, back in the day, and obviously they had guys before that, but he's probably the most recent one. I mean, Bo Collins is the closest they have. And then they had a couple. I mean, Riley Leonard hit a really nice deep ball to Jaden Greathouse and went right off his hands. They had chances, but the play calling left a lot to be desired. Riley Leonard's play left a lot to be desired. People are already calling, just go ahead and throw in CJ Carr. Get the freshman some playing time. I mean, I don't know. It's just the sky is falling in South Bend. And it is a black sky. It's not a Golden Dome sky anymore after last week. Are you looking for the best deals on tickets? Look no further than SeatGeek. Whether it's the big game, a concert, or any live event, SeatGeek has you covered with all the best seats at the best prices. And right now, with the promo code ALWAYSTALKINGBALL, you'll get $20 off your first purchase. That's right, $20 off just for being a fan of this podcast. Do not miss out on the action. Download the SeatGeek app and use promo code ALWAYSTALKINGBALL for $20 off today.
Yeah, and I know it's not Northern Illinois, but there's also a black sky hanging over Ann Arbor, Michigan, where old Sark and the Texas Longhorns just traveled up to Ann Arbor and clapped those cheeks for the Wolverines on Saturday.
Dude, we knew Michigan's offense was bad, but not this bad.
Yeah, it was worse than. I mean, we all thought it was bad, but like you're right, it was worse than what we even thought it was. And again, Michigan is still really good defensively. They're not as dominant defensively. That's obvious for what we watched Saturday. Offensive line, not there. They look like a team that lost a lot of players to the NFL and lost their one of the best coaches in the sport to the NFL and lost a great defensive coordinator to the NFL. And that's what that looked like. And you know what?
Speaking of your boy Wink Martindale, what was the deal with him moving Mason Graham all across the place? I mean, they would move him. He's a D tackle. They moved him to right end at some point, and Texas just runs the opposite way. If you're going to put a guy like that out on the outside, they're just going to run the opposite way. I don't understand what that was all about.
I don't either, man. But I think at some point you just we got to try something here. And maybe he liked the matchup. But also hats off to Sark, who is one of the best play callers in the. He was on, man.
Well, and you're playing a experienced quarterback in Quinn Ewers, and he's going to see that right there. I mean, he's seen a lot in his time at Texas, and he sees that, and he's just going to check to a run play to the other side.
Yeah, and what I was impressed with most with Ewers, with a guy with a talent like that, playing in a hostile environment like that, he's normally you see guys try to do too much, especially in a big game, and man, he was just as cool and calm and collected as he could possibly be. Let the game come to him, didn't force anything. And I think he was even smart enough to realize that they can't score on us. So the only chance they've got is if we start turning the ball over here and giving them extra possessions or letting a non-offensive touchdown or something. But it was evident early on that was a total mismatch. And I know I'm the SEC guy here and stuff like that. So of course, some people are going to think it's his SEC bias, and it's not. But I always want to ask you this question: did that not look like, like for many years there, like it's kind of started back when Saban was at LSU, and you had Tebow and Chris Leak at Florida? That kind of mid to early 2000, kind of mid 2000s, 2008, 2009, 2010, those eras, where when the SEC would line up against Big Ten teams, that it was just a total mismatch in athletes on the field.
Yeah.
That's what that looked like. That's really what that looked like. And it was just weird seeing that with Michigan. It kind of looked like Michigan a few years ago, that first year they made the playoffs and did not belong on the same field with Georgia in the Orange Bowl in that game. That's what that looked like Saturday. Texas with their athletes on the perimeter and the speed that they had on the defensive line and linebackers, and just, again, not all 5 stars are created equal. And Texas's 5 stars that were running around were running rings around Michigan.
Yeah.
And Sark called a great game. But yeah, Texas looked
a beautiful game.
Yeah, he did. And Texas looked the part, man. We talked. Even Saban actually said it on game day. We should pat ourselves on the back, since we talked about it on the most recent episode, that the parallels between Michigan and Texas going to Michigan, playing an offense against a quarterback in an offense that has no idea what they are yet. And that's the same thing that happened last year in Tuscaloosa, but this Michigan offense is much worse. And I don't know that this can be. Do you see anything that this can be fixed? Like, this is a greater thing with Michigan. Like, a lot of teams on their schedule have legit defenses, but not very good offenses. Michigan's going to be in a lot of. I mean, they're just more talented than teams like a Minnesota or teams like that. But like, again, even teams like Minnesota, like defensively, like a lot of those teams in the Big Ten can hold up against this Michigan offense for sure. You're looking at a lot of like 17-13, 16-10, 23-20, 23-17 type games, where if your offense turns the ball over and gives up a non-offensive touchdown or something, you're in trouble in those games. So, but from here, I mean, I think a little bit better of Texas than I did going into the game, but I'm not like freaking out because Texas went in and beat, honestly, a pretty mid Michigan team in this game. Michigan may end up going 9-3 or something like that, but it wouldn't shock me either if they're an 8-4 type football team with how bad this offense is.
8-4 might be gracious at this point.
Ooh.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the stat is out there, but not a lot of quarterbacks have gone into Bryant-Denny Stadium and Michigan Stadium and come out with W's in their career, like in the same career, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty darn impressive by Quinn Ewers. But, man, you said it. They just dominated them. And in your words, it was an absolute mauling, right? Sark, he called a beautiful game.
Yep.
Michigan just looks so slow against the speed of Texas.
Yep.
And that, we keep talking about this, now kind of the new look USC and the athletes that they're bringing in. They're going to the big house in 2 weeks. And Michigan may not be able to keep up with them either. I know it's a different type of team in Los Angeles, but I would watch out there. As far as the quarterback situation goes for Michigan, first of all, some of the packages that they're trying to run with Alex Orji just are some of the dumbest I've seen in a while. Like, I mean, 90% of the time he's going to run the ball. And when you're playing a team like Texas, you don't have the scheme or the blocking to get positive yards. So those are just wasted plays that I saw in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
There are other quarterbacks, Davis Warren. I mean, I know the kid's got a good story and everything, but why are we not raking Michigan over the coals as much as we did Clemson for their lack of portal? I mean, I know Michigan brought in some guys, but to think that you're good at quarterback with Davis Warren and Alex Orji, and I know Michigan fans will say, well, we thought Jack Tuttle was, going to play, but he's injured. And like, okay, you're relying on Jack Tuttle, though? Like, you're supposed to be a national championship caliber program here. Like, you're just defending national champs. You thought your QB situation was so good that you just didn't have to go into the portal and get a quarterback. So,
well, yeah. What about Harbaugh? Like Harbaugh is the one that recruited the majority of these cats on this roster, and he left them with no quarterback. Like they literally don't have a single quarterback at Michigan. We're talking about the Big Ten here. The mid-level Big Ten teams have, and even lower level bit, like Purdue's got a much better quarterback than Michigan. Seriously.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Purdue's a better team, but quarterback-wise, there are many better quarterbacks across all. Dude, Texas State, Jordan McLeod, is so much better than the Michigan quarterback. Think about that.
Yep.
Like there's a lot of teams with significantly better quarterbacks than what Michigan has right now. These guys shouldn't be. These guys are group of 5 at best type quarterbacks. So yeah, dude, I'm with you. I'm with you.
If you want to rep your favorite team with the comfiest and most stylish gear, look no further than Home Field Apparel. They've got the best vintage college designs that'll make you stand out on game day. And here's the best part. Use promo code ATB15 at checkout and you'll get 15% off your entire purchase. That's right, 15% off just for being a listener of this podcast. Do not wait. Head over to homefieldapparel.com and grab your gear now with promo code ATB15. Go support your team in style.
How about probably maybe the wildest game of the day in Stillwater?
Yeah, man, this is all you. I know you were texting me about this game just nonstop. I knew you were locked into this one because that Texas-Michigan game was such a blowout.
Yeah, it was, and I had action on Arkansas. I gave them out on the podcast at +8, put them out there, and it went all the way to 10 on Saturday. So I grabbed me some +10 on Saturday, and I'm really glad I did that because of what ended up happening. But dude, I don't know that I've seen a team just completely dominate every facet of the game and lose like that. Like, if you want to be a box score Barry and go look at the amount of first downs that Arkansas had in comparison to Oak State, the total yards, Arkansas had almost 700 yards of offense, and Oklahoma State didn't even have 400 yards of offense. The rushing yards, the passing yards, time of possession, I think Arkansas had it for almost 40 minutes of football, and Oklahoma State had it somewhere in the 20s. And there was nothing except Arkansas had 3 crucial back-breaking type turnovers. And I'm going to start with the positive. Taylon Green is the real deal. But what you get with him is the entire Taylon Green experience, what you saw Saturday. He's going to make throws and plays and look like, I mean, the dude, again, is like 6'6", 225 and can run like a deer. Super athletic, makes the wow plays and the wow throws, and then he's dropping snaps. He's trying to throw the football while defensive linemen are wrapping him up and slinging him down, and he's just throwing it in the air, like in the middle of the field to who he don't even know where he's throwing it, for interceptions. But here's what I'll say. That's the definition of what we talk about, how Mike Gundy and Oklahoma State, they find ways to win a lot of football games. Bad football teams and bad, poorly coached football teams find ways to lose. Arkansas was the epitome of that on Saturday. They were the better team. If the game grader stuff on Pick Six previews, and Brett Sianka and them did a game grader of that game, I would love to see the difference between Arkansas and Oklahoma State because, again, Arkansas was much better, but lost the game, found ways to lose that game. And like I said, Arkansas lost in double overtime by 8. That game had everything, man. The big plays, running the football, throwing the football, missed field goal, college kickers, mixed field goals, poor coaching decisions, good coaching decisions. I mean, it had it all. But it was one of the better games of the day and one of the most exciting games of the day. Because it went double overtime, and Oklahoma State ended up winning by 8. So I pushed what I gave out here on the podcast and what I had. And I know you're smiling because I was so mad. And I ended up winning the +10 that I snagged on Saturday. But that felt like kissing your sister. That just wasn't nothing exciting about that at all.
Yeah, you were a little upset with the old 3 Tech Pod boys.
I was. Now, hey, we love the old 3 Tech Pod here. We do. They do a great job over there, and we really respect them. But come on now, fellas, you can't be tweeting out that the game is over and tweeting out. I think Daffy Duck like sitting there counting his money at halftime. That I think that they tweeted out Arkansas +7.5 with Daffy Duck sitting there walling around in cash money. And as soon as I saw that, man, I texted you and I said, somebody please tell them there's another half of football left to be played. And they had them at +7.5.
Yeah.
And I would love to have felt bad for them.
Oh, man.
But I was so frustrated myself that Oklahoma State came all the way back. I had to tweet at the boys. But, hey, again, 3 Tech does a great job. Got a lot of respect for them. That was one of those that I would have loved to, like, hop on a little Instagram Live or something like that with them real quick and talk about that.
Yeah. The Hogs, the Hogs showed flashes in Stillwater. I mean, no doubt about that. They've got the goods to really play with any team.
They're going to get somebody they shouldn't. They're going to because Taylor Green and Bobby Petrino, that tandem together. We talked about it going into that game, man. Petrino being as good of a play caller and a play designer and a good like just overall like designing of offense in general, and to be able to design a game plan as good as he is with an athlete like that at Taylor Green and a really good tailback. And then Sam Pittman going back to doing what he does best, which is working really closely with that offensive line.
Yeah.
All of that showed in that game. But they were still rag as could be in the second half on defense. They couldn't get out of their own way, and they did, again, what they've been doing the last few years. They found ways to lose, which is what bad football teams do. And that's what they did.
Yeah, this was the classic September Oklahoma State experience. But this time they actually won. Last year they played South Alabama and they got their teeth kicked in. But they got the win. We've been talking all offseason about how experienced the Cowboys are this year. And I think the experience showed. They hung in the game. They stayed in the game. They didn't make a lot of the mental mistakes that Arkansas made. I mean, it's a young team versus an old team. So,
dude,
you kind of
last thing on this game, Oklahoma State is still booty on defense. They've got problems on defense. And playing a couple of those teams, there's not a ton of teams in the Big 12 that I think can majorly exploit that, but a healthy Cam Rising in Utah can. If keyword healthy Cam Rising, if that is even possible, but that can do that.
Yeah. Next up, we tried to tell you all about Colorado. We tried to do it, and I know a lot of our smart listeners were seeing through all the BS. With Dion and the Buffs and everything. It was the same thing as last year. Dude, Shadur Sanders may not survive the season. I said that last week after they played North Dakota State and he got kicked around. He's hanging onto the ball too long. His offensive line sucks. He's throwing his offensive line under the bus after the game, asking the reporters how many times Raiola got hit. And, I mean, I know he was a little banged up, but he's leaving, the game 2 minutes early. Like, just not a good look for the leadership there of, supposed leader or dog, whatever the L or D he has on his chest. I don't give a crap. But he may not survive the season. I mean, there's just absolutely no discipline on this team. I don't think Dion teaches it. I don't think he does. And I think I've said it before. I know I said it last year. I texted you. I got to find the clip, but I don't think he's a good football coach. He's Dion freaking Sanders. and that's why people come and play for him. And he's trying to put coordinators around him, and he's trying to do this whole CEO role and everything. I'm not buying into it. Trust me, I hope this is the last time we talk about them this season, because in my mind they're irrelevant, and it's happened quicker than it did, last year. Obviously, they made it 3 weeks last year with everybody still talking about them, so I'm hoping everybody just ignores them the rest of the year. But I mean, he was asked right before the game what their plan was to put pressure on Dylan Raiola, and he just said, all he said to the person interviewing him was, "We're gonna get him." Isn't that right, son? That's all he said. We're gonna get him. Like, I don't think he has any plans. I don't think he knows how to draw up plans, how to devise, plans to put pressure on the quarterback. That evidently showed yesterday, because Dylan Raiola had all the time in the world. And I just think, like, it's just, those are just two opposite. Those programs are heading in the opposite directions. I told you in the offseason, as soon as Shedeur and Travis Hunter leave, I'm not sure Deion sticks around much longer. And I think he's going to leave that place off a lot worse than he got there.
I hate matching up with old Paul Feinbaum, but yeah, he said that apparently on Get Up or something today, that he doesn't think that Deion will be there after this year. I don't either. Not because he's going to get fired.
He must have heard that on Always Talking Ball.
He might have. I just think, I mean, Shadeur's going to be gone. I think Shiloh's gone. Travis Hunter's gone. I mean, yeah, like, I don't think I'll be surprised if he comes back after this year.
I mean, we talked about their tough schedule. Are they going to get to 4 wins?
I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I think the way I started off when we previewed this game, the first I literally started it off by asking the question, dude, how's Colorado going to block Nebraska?
Yeah.
Like, how are they going to block them? And that was evident from the get-go that, like, they couldn't block them. And and I mean, I think it was 28-3 at the half, 28-0, 28-3, something like that.
28-0 at half.
Yeah, 28-0 at the half.
Nebraska just kicked it into cruise control in the second half.
Right. I was going to say, I will say this. Like I said, I still think, which is so funny to say, Colorado is slightly improved from last year, but they're still so bad on the line of scrimmage that, I mean, I don't know that they'll face. I can't remember. They play Utah, don't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
They play K-State too.
Yeah. Nebraska might be the best defensive.
I think they play Oklahoma State too. So, I mean, it's not a great defense, but I mean, they like I said, they've got a tough schedule.
Yeah. Nebraska, I think, is the best defensive front they'll see, but I just don't see anything that they're slightly improved defensively. They're still really good at scheme, but they're just bad, man, on the offensive line. They can't run.
I don't see how you can go through the portal and replace your entire offensive line
and still be that bad.
Entire offensive line and not even improve at all.
Yeah, it's bad.
But you know what? Enough of Colorado. Let's talk about Matt Rule in Nebraska and how Matt Rule may be working his year 2 magic again, huh?
Yeah, dude. We talked about it going into that game, that both sides of the line of scrimmage for Nebraska was going to be really good. It's Matt Rule. You're not going to not be good at those things under him. There's certain coaches where there's just a certain standard that has to be met, and on certain things that teams do that they're going to do under that coach. Matt Rule, you're going to be good on the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. Nebraska is that. Where they differ now than what they've had in a long time, they do have guys on the outside on the skill position. They've got tailbacks, but they actually do have a guy at quarterback that can make a difference. And I'm not going to here's the thing that I was most impressed with Raiola. I know Colorado, like you said, isn't very good, and they get so much publicity because of Prime and Shedeur and all that. They're like the greatest show in town every week.
You gotta give it to Colorado. I mean, they're getting their teeth kicked in. They're down 28-0. They're still standing over guys, taunting them, dancing. They are sticking to the bit, man. It is crazy.
I knew the victory lap here was going to be when I knew this was going to be a victory lap for you, and that's okay, man. Go ahead, get them. But the Raiola, again, kind of what we talked about with Ewers a minute ago on the road at Michigan. Raiola, young freshman, true freshman, in his second game ever, in a huge atmosphere like that at night, and dude, We tried to tell you guys too. I hope that some of you tuned in because that atmosphere is lit. That's so awesome, man. Lincoln is that has become like, I want to go there for a night game.
Yeah.
Like, maybe we should take the Always Talking Ball. Like, we should go there for a night game in Lincoln.
Oh, yeah.
And catch a good one there sometime because, dude, that was awesome seeing that. And good for those fans because they have all those sellouts they've had in a row all these years.
Yeah.
They've been down, and they're finally getting to see a decent product. But yeah, like, as far as on the field, man, they've got some goods, man. And Raiola actually like not trying to overly force things, letting the game come to him, knowing that his defense and running the football and things like that are going to be what wins them games. And we said this last year. They lost like 5 games last year by 1 possession or less, and almost all of those games they were minus $1 billion in turnovers. If they just don't turn the ball over, they're going to win 8 or 9 games just by not turning the ball over. They don't have to do anything spectacular on offense. Their defense is that good, and their defensive coordinator is that good. But because they actually do now have weapons on the outside, on the perimeter, and good and healthy at tailback, and a quarterback that when they need him to make throws, he can make types of throws that others can't because of how talented he is. As long as he doesn't go out there and crap down his leg and turn the ball over 5 times, Nebraska's going to be going to win a lot of football games this year and be a possible 9-win type team. But good for them, man. I was happy for Matt Rule. I loved seeing the thing afterwards, him jumping on top of the players and crowd surfing and stuff. That was cool. But
I like Dylan Raiola. I think he's got a little swag to him too, which is nice. And props to Nebraska. I mean, he's a true freshman, and they're just like, who's the backup? I don't even know who the backup is. Right? They're just like
Henrik Heiberg or Heinberg, whatever that Harburg. The guy, the dude that had to play last year because they might as well had me and you back there playing quarterback.
Yeah, but not a lot of people know his name because it's Dylan Raiola or bust, and they're rolling with the true freshman, and it's working out for them so far. So they've got an easy stretch, here in the next 4 or 5 games, but nothing's ever easy. Call South Bend, see if it's easy for them. So speaking of making it look easy,
woo!
Tennessee whooping up on NC State. I think I turned that game off. What was it? 51-10?
A lot to not a lot.
All I got to say is if you're a voter out there for any sort of poll or you put your own poll out, whatever, if you don't have Tennessee in your top 10, I hate to use this phrase, but you don't know ball. Okay?
Yeah. You don't know ball. You are not a ball knower if you do not have Tennessee in the top 10. And I'm going to start with this. We hype up Nico so much on here. We've done it all summer long. I know we try to tell you guys. There's a lot of other people that try to tell you too. There was also those that were doing the whole, well, let's pause and let's see what he's like or whatever. No. Like, you knew this dude was different, and he's different. But Josh Heupel in Tennessee have a defense, a really good defense.
They've got a complete team.
Agreed. They're scary, man. They're scary. They are, right now, I can promise you, nobody wants to see the Vols lining up across the field from them this coming up Saturday. We've talked about it so much, man. I'm just going to keep saying it. With Josh Heupel's offenses that have been so good, top 10 every year except last year, dating back to his days at UCF, has a guy like Nico now as his trigger man. We know how good the offense is going to be. We know Josh Heupel's offense is going to score points. But with the fact that they've got a defensive line that can go up against a good, like I know, here's the thing. A lot of people are going to say after this game, maybe this turns out to be true later on down the year. Maybe we look back and NC State sitting there at 7-5 at the end of the year, and this still was a good win and it was a dominating win. But maybe we look back and say NC State's just rag. But I don't think that's the case. I think NC State's going to be an 8-4, 9-3 type football team later in the year still in the ACC. And Tennessee's defensive line made NC State look like a bad high school team. 13 tackles for a loss. I actually went through, I did this today, just curious. I went through a lot of different box scores, being a box score berry, and tried to find in the bigger games someone that came even close to 13 tackles for a loss. Didn't find it. And against a solid Power 4 football team, dude, that's, again, man, that's scary for a lot of teams that's going to play this Tennessee team because you know how good this offense is and you know how good Nico is. And for Tennessee to be getting after people's ass on defense like that is, they looked the part, man. That was a total and utter mismatch. That's all there was to it. Those two teams could play 10 times and it would be a beat down 10 times. That was just, and this ain't, look, this isn't anything against NC State. It's really not. Tennessee's that good, man.
Yeah.
I think you agree. Like, there's a lot of people that watch that game. Here's another thing that's scary. Nico was really good in that game, but he actually wasn't as good as what he can be. And only his third start, that was only his third start, by the way, which also, the dude seems like he's been playing 10 years with the legend that we've heard of him going into this year. And I know he started the Iowa game last, but he's now played Iowa, who we know how good they are defensively, and what he did in that game. NC State, they're very respectable defensively, defensive-minded coaches, and just made it look easy. So in only 3 starts, I saw, I think, like Pro Football Focus, I think, put a stat out today where there's whatever the scoring differential, the scoring margin in Nico's 3 starts are insane. It's like 100 and something to like 3 or 7, whatever.
Yeah, like 13.
Yeah. Like it's wild, man. But that's a really good football team there in Knoxville, and they should be excited. And I know they got. Do they play this week or are they off before they play
I think
Oklahoma?
They got Kent State coming in, so it'll be another easy week, and then they'll rock into maybe another game, maybe another non-conference, and then they'll get into SEC play. But I mean, the focus is going to be on Nico Yamaleava. I mean, he's awesome, like we've been saying. But dude, like the Vols, they rushed for 250 yards in the game against NC State. They held NC State's offense under 200 yards. They held their offense to 3 points because Pat got a defensive touchdown. And, his hand was said, people are going to look at the box score when they're voting for awards at the end of the year, and they're going to see, we threw 2 picks in this game. Like, it's I
had someone text me last night, go, well, he threw 2 picks. And I was like, look, man, if you watch this game, like I asked, did you watch the game? Did you watch it? And they texted back and said, honestly, I did not.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just read a box score. You're doing what a lot of the Heisman Trophy voters do.
Yeah.
You're just reading stats. You're not watching games. That dude looked like a superstar.
Yeah.
And yeah, dude, they're if you're a Tennessee fan, you got a lot to be excited about. This year.
They were number 1 in defensive efficiency this week against a top 25 team. That's pretty solid. I love what Josh Heupel said after the game. He said, this is the University of Tennessee. Reggie White played here. Eric Berry played here. Guys like that. We expect to be really good and solid on defense.
He's been preaching that, man, all off season, bro. Like I actually didn't hear that. That's good stuff. Because he went to SEC Media Days and everybody was talking about, the offense. And I think somebody was like, you being an offensive guy like you, and the Heupel cut him off and immediately said, look, I know that I coach offense and I call plays, but he said, I hate being labeled as an offensive guy. He said, I would be fine. Like, I would love to win every game 56-0, but I'm fine winning every game 13-3.
Yeah.
Like, I want to have a lights-out defense. And I'm not saying they're lights out, but through 2 ball games, they are as impressive as it gets right now.
Yeah.
And they are definitely on the radar and should be they're going to be a problem this year.
Yeah. Watch out for the Vols, man. They don't just have a great quarterback. They've got a complete team, like I said. So you're about to hear more about them here in a second because it is time for week 2, ATB Top 12.
Let them know.
We're going to start with number 1, obviously number 1, Northern Illinois, best team on the planet, right? So, no, I'm just kidding. Northern Illinois, props to you for cracking the top 25
Panthers,
in the
right?
AP poll. Yeah, but again, the AP poll, we don't pay any attention to that. All I do pay attention to it because it's so laughably bad. No offense to our Mizzou fans. You are in our top 12. We'll get to you in a second, but you shouldn't be ranked number 6 in the AP. So don't look into that and be like, oh, we are a top 6 team. Like, you haven't played anybody yet. You're not going to play. I mean, you'll play BC this week, but again.
Hey,
Let's
if you're a
just let's,
fan, if you're
let's
a fan
pump the
though,
brakes.
enjoy it. Enjoy it.
Yeah,
Hey,
enjoy it, but pump the brakes a little bit. All right. So, number one, Georgia. Actually, we had our top 7 were completely the same, right?
which is rare. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
What's
When you
week
told
2?
when you text me yours that you had the same, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, it's week 2. Give us time. We'll start arguing here in a couple weeks probably. So, week number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Ohio State. Those stay the same as last week. Number 3, all the way up from I think 5 or 6 last week, is Texas, with a win on the road against a top 10 Michigan team, maybe a fringe top 25 team at this point, but nonetheless, solid, dominating performance. Number 4, we are keeping them in the top 4. And that's Lance's Crimson Tide, who had themselves another day with USF until, 6 minutes left in that game. It's a 5-point ball game, and there's just something about the Bulls that makes Alabama just play undisciplined and have penalties and fumble the ball, and just unbelievable. I tweeted out, I said, if Alabama never has to play USF again, I think their fans would be okay with that. Well, unfortunately for them, they've got another one scheduled with them in 2026, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's been a while since we've mentioned him here on the podcast, but in the old group text with me and you and Cole Frederick, I think you mentioned that, so I think Alabama would never want to play USF again. So, and he said, but yeah, I think they either beat Auburn or something, and then Auburn never scheduled them again, and then somebody else.
I went to a Notre Dame game that they played USF opener in 2011, and USF beat them 23-20. So
And Notre Dame never scheduled them again, right?
Haven't played them since.
Right, right. Yeah, I think after 2026, Bama's going to say, "Hey, Bulls, Tampa, it's been great, but let's move on. We're going to move on, and play some other G5 team." Yeah, I mean they struggled. The offensive line, I say Bama struggled. It was mostly the offensive line. And stop me if you've heard that before. But it was the same song and dance as it was last year. They just flat out couldn't block them. I have now watched since 2020 Alabama with Mac Jones in 2020. Bryce Young for 2 years, and now Milroe for 1 year and like a few games in, where almost I obviously don't have the time to do this, but I bet you could go back and watch almost every snap of every game. And I don't know that I'll watch any other team do this to where the quarterback's just running for their life over and over and over again. And it's just the QB with his feet making plays. And it happened again Saturday where Milroe drops back and it's like there is 4 or 5 white jerseys in the backfield almost immediately. And this is going to sound like an excuse. It's not an excuse. It's just really the truth that Alabama had 3 offensive linemen that were playing completely out of position because of injuries. But I will quickly say this. That I don't give a shit. It's Alabama playing South Florida. You should have better depth. You should have people that were in the game playing better than what they played on Saturday.
Well, you and I talked about the depth thing too, and we mentioned it a lot in the offseason, and Kirby's mentioned it, right, about how just the depth is eroding at even the top programs because of the portal.
Yeah, and I mean it's telling. I texted you this, dude. It's so funny. Emily, my wife, sitting here on the couch, and she's going, "Do we not have somebody better than 75?" Which is the right tackle. Sorry, Welcome formerly. If you're an always talking ball listener, I apologize. But she's right. That it's telling, man. It speaks volumes that we're in the fourth quarter of a game and Alabama's sitting there in the fourth quarter. Welcome Formerly has about 9,000 holds and couldn't block me. And
Dude, he got more airtime. He got more airtime than Nick Saban on the night that they were freaking dedicating the field to him.
He really that was a good one, dude. Yeah, no, 100% though. You're right. And the fact that they didn't, dude, this is Alabama we're talking about. They didn't have somebody else over there on the sidelines that could block better than that fool.
Yeah,
they could just not hold
an injured Pritchett.
So yeah, to your point, with about 7 or 8 minutes to go, they bring a guy that it's going to be the starting right tackle, bring him off the bench injured. He wasn't playing in this game because he was injured. They bring him out there with literally he had more tape around his wrists and hands. And I think they ran out of tape on the sidelines because they had so much tape around this dude that they put it right tackle. That's the desperation that they had to do. But still, that's scary going forward, that if Alabama were to lose a tackle, that Formby's going to have to play either left or right tackle against that defensive line that we were just talking about with Tennessee, against Georgia's defensive front, against some of these teams they play in the Southeastern Conference, or if they make it to the playoffs, whatever. But yeah, when we could go on and on about this, but overall, they ended up taking care of business there late in the game. It just...
Dude, Alex Golish, I mean, they lost that game when they decided to kick a field goal at 21-13 and make it 21-16 with about 6 minutes to go in the game. They're down in, I mean, who knows how many more chances you're going to have to get back down inside the red zone and inside the 10-yard line. And he kicks the field goal, and you just, at that point, you just concede, in my mind. And
well, as a fan of the team he was playing against, as soon as he kicked that field goal, I was saying out loud, "It's over. This game's over.
It's over.
They just lost the game."
And I mean, you got to watch out too. I think it was a case last year, but they got to get the penalties shored up quickly. I mean, that may be a thing for Bama. And I was looking back at last year, and I don't know if it's a DeBoer thing or whatever, if it's his Achilles heel or whatever, but Washington was 126th in penalties last season with 7.5 per game.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm not going to put it all on Kalen DeBoer, but you know, I don't know if it's a recurring theme with his players and his teams. And I just, you know, they best get that shored up pretty quickly.
I agree. They're just so many mistakes, man. That's the thing. The fumbles, they fumbled the second half kickoff where they had a great play. Kendrick Law ran it back past midfield, then he fumbles. Jam Miller runs for 15 yards and has a great run, trying to stretch it into more yardage, and he fumbles. Bama's about to go in the end zone and score, and for the first time, I think, and I don't remember how long, that I watched Jalen Milroe go under center, and that's another thing. So I agree with what they were saying on the broadcast, that sometimes these coaches just overthink things.
Yeah.
Just snap the ball back. Just snap the ball back in shotgun and let whoever run the football. But, of course, they snap it under center and they fumble. So, yeah, just a lot of mistakes, penalties, turnovers, busted assignments, stuff like that. And here's what's I know I'm going to sound like a Bama homer here. After all that, what we just said, how many points they win by? We saw a lot of teams lose games or almost lose games, whatever. They still ended up taking care of business. And I will say this. Last year, everybody panicking after the South Florida game. I told everybody to relax. Ended up working out okay. Relax. Now, they go up to Camp Randall this next weekend, suck again, and either lose or almost lose and have a zillion penalties and can't block me. And then they get a week off and they get their cheeks clapped by Georgia at home. Okay, then we'll start worrying a little bit. A little bit. But right now, not time to worry.
Yep. Again, top 4, Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Alabama. Number 5, Ole Miss took care of business against Middle Tennessee, 52-3. Nobody really paid attention to that game except for Ole Miss fans.
Dude, I know real quick.
Yeah.
There's only two. They've played two, like, basically high school teams. But still, the numbers that Jackson Dart is putting up and this offense is putting up through 2 games is hard to put up against air. They're doing exactly what you're supposed to do to 2 bad football teams. They've definitely done that.
Yep. 6 and 7 would be a heck of a matchup on field right now.
Yes, it would.
Number 6, we've got the Miami Hurricanes, and number 7, we've got the Tennessee Volunteers, the aforementioned Tennessee Volunteers. Miami whooped up on FAMU yesterday, but they have that solid road win in their back pocket. Tennessee's got the solid what's the word I'm looking for? Neutral field. Neutral field.
Beat down on a neutral field against NC State. And I'll say this. We actually, this was the spot that we were like, I mean, we got to talk about this. Miami or Tennessee. Because how we do this is I turn in my rankings, Tyler turns in his. We take the consensus of both of our rankings. When there's ties, we talk it out and we discuss.
This wasn't where we had the tie. We had the top 7, correct? We had the top 7 in the same. So we both had Miami 6.
That's a good point.
We had 8 and 9. We had USC Penn State.
That's true.
That's where we had.
That's true. But
I had Penn State 8.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I had Penn State 8 and USC 9. You had USC 8 and Penn State 9.
Yeah, I had USC just because I think the win over LSU, I know it's on a neutral field, was more impressive. But, guys, this is USC we're talking about, and a Lincoln Riley team. They pitched a shutout against a team that puts 11 players on offense. It's a Division I FBS football team. They allowed 0 points.
Lincoln Riley's first shutout against an FBS team.
Exactly. Like, they allowed 0 points. And again, bro, like Utah State. Like, I don't care. Tennessee Tech scored points against Georgia.
Yep.
This week. Like, USC is obviously better this year defensively through 2 games. Yeah. It's easy to say that now. We can say that now. D'Anton Lynn is that good. He is 100% making his name known right now through 2 weeks. If we were right now, I know everybody talking about Heisman and all this stuff. If we were talking about Broyles Award winners, D'Anton Lynn through 2 weeks, if the season ended today, only 2 weeks in, he'd be your Broyles Award winner for what the USC's defense has done. But back to the Miami-Tennessee thing, I just want to explain to the listeners and like why we chose Miami at 6 and Tennessee at 7.
Yeah.
We agree that both of those teams are really good football teams and are a problem. But you made a good point in that we gave Miami the nod because Miami going on the road to the Swamp and just obliterating Florida on the road in the Swamp was more impressive than Tennessee obliterating NC State on a neutral field. But I agree with you. If those two teams matched up this week, sign me all the way up for that matchup.
Yeah. We're splitting hairs with those two teams.
I agree.
Right there.
I agree. And USC Penn State, like I just said, I thought USC's win over LSU was more impressive, but like we're just splitting hairs there. USC Penn State, they're gonna settle it on the field here in a few weeks in the Coliseum, and that would be a fantastic matchup if those two teams played each other.
Yeah, let's talk a little Penn State. Did you catch that game against Bowling Green?
No, I did not until the fourth quarter because I just kept saying, they'll. And then when I realized when they did not stretch it out, I mean, they were sitting there in the fourth quarter multiple times giving the ball back to Bowling Green with a chance to go win the football game. And that's, again, definition of 18 to 24-year-olds. Big win on the road. They spent all offseason prepping for that West Virginia game in Morgantown. They go to Morgantown, get on West Virginia's ass, and then they come home and play against little old Bowling Green from the MAC, thinking they can just go through the motions and win that game. And Penn State comes home and doesn't care at all about that game. Let's just go get this game over with. Let's go through the motions. We can roll the ball out there and win. And they're playing a team that this is their freaking Super Bowl. Yeah. To go into Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, and they played like it. And Bowling Green played their butt off. But Penn State still prevailed, got the win. The alarming thing in this game was more so Penn State's defense. I know the offense wasn't as good in this game as they were against West Virginia. But it was strange seeing a Penn State, like even the years where Penn State may not be at their defense still shuts down teams like Bowling Green, and they flat out didn't. Connor Bazelak, the old quarterback from Mizzou, had himself a good game for Bowling Green. Yeah,
it's you said it too. I mean, that's why I said we learn a lot more about teams in week 2 than we do in week 1, because you have the whole offseason to prepare for that week 1 game, and you got 6 days to prepare for the week 2 matchup. And it says a lot about the coaching staffs and everything. Usually, James Franklin is much more dominant against those teams, like you talked about. I mean, he's like against the spread machine. September and October.
Penn State against the spread was a popular pick this week.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. That one failed miserably. So number 10, 11, and 12, we've got the Utah Utes, Oregon Ducks, and yes, the Mizzou Fighting Tigers have made it into the ATB top 12. Utah, they get a big win over Baylor, an expected win over Baylor. Again, Cam Rising hurt his hand. I don't know how much health this guy has left in him.
Yeah, before people say anything about well Utah only beat Baylor, but there was 23, I think it was 23-0
Yeah.
in the first half when Rising went out.
Mhm.
And in Utah fashion, they showed us once again how important this guy, look, there's a lot of like quarterbacks that are obviously very important to their team. Utah without Cam Rising
Yeah.
is trash.
We saw it last year with Bryson Barnes.
Yeah, and they still somehow won 8 games last year. I say
Yeah.
trash, they won 8 games, so I take that back. But still, that offense is booty without Cam Rising, and 23-0. He goes out. I don't know. They didn't score another point, did they? No,
23-12 was the final.
They didn't score another point. But still, he's going to be fine. I think he got some fingers or something he had taped up. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
So I'm good. I'm good with what we got 10, 11, and 12. I know the AP poll has Mizzou at 6. I'm not just saying this because I live in St. Louis. I know we have some Mizzou fans that like listen to this.
We love Mizzou.
We do. Like we're not saying Mizzou isn't good at football. You should be extremely proud, but they should not be number 6. They just shouldn't right now. They may prove what we're saying wrong, and that's fine. We'll eat crow later in the year. But at this point, playing Ole Miss and Mizzou are the 2 teams that have played basically high school teams in our top 12. And Mizzou, the 2 teams that Mizzou played are worse than the 2 teams that Ole Miss has played. And Mizzou has done exactly what you should do, though, with those 2 teams.
Yeah.
I don't have a negative thing to say about this Mizzou football team. Not one. But they have not played anybody. But it is impressive that they've pitched 2 shutouts with a defense that we thought going into this year would take a step back. I know they haven't played an offense yet, so we'll still find out. We'll still see. But through 2 weeks, they've done exactly what they're supposed to do with 2 bad football teams. So that's why they've made our top 12. But as soon as they play, it could be this week. Like Boston College is not a juggernaut or anything like that. It's solid. Yeah, solid little football team. If Mizzou goes out and just walks the dog on a Boston College team, that'll definitely get my attention a little more.
Yeah.
That'll definitely get my attention a little more.
Yeah. Man, we gave him a pass last week, but something might be up in Eugene.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. They've got a Heisman front runner at quarterback, or a preseason Heisman front runner, and they have talent on the offensive line. They've got talent at the skill positions. I don't know what in the world is going on up at Oregon.
You're going to be mad at me because I said I wasn't going to give any more like hot takes, but I really don't think this is a hot take. Oregon's not a national championship contender this year. They're just not. It's only 2 weeks in. It's only 2 weeks in, but I feel good. I feel good about saying that.
I mean, that just shows you all the preseason stuff that we do is just absolutely
everybody does. Everybody does.
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. 2 weeks ago, we're saying they're a national championship contender. Their best case is 12-0, and right now it looks like Ohio State's just going to run away with the conference. Them and USC, with the way they look. I mean, Oregon's got to get something figured out. I know trying to tackle Ashton Genty is no easy task, and if we're talking about Heisman frontrunners, that dude should probably be Heisman frontrunner.
I mean, if you had 4 or 5 people right now, he would be in that 4 or 5.
Yeah, for sure.
Cam Moore, Nico, Ashton Genty. I'll start with those 3, and I'm sure there's somebody else I'm forgetting. But I'll start.
He's probably
with
only non-quarterback.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. He's a dude, man. He's a dude. NFL scouts are drooling over that cat.
Yeah, but Oregon, man,
I stayed up.
They gotta get something figured out.
That was definitely, if somebody could have got a bet on what I make it like to almost midnight, I made it for the majority of that game. And that was the reason why I really wanted to just watch this Oregon team against Boise. And they got problems, man. My take on Oregon right now, I know everybody's already saying this, so yes, you're going to hear their offensive line has problems. That is true. Their offensive line does have problems. Their defensive line also has some problems. They are, I think, really good pass rushers. I don't think they're great at stopping the run right now. Their DBs are really good. Oregon's DBs are really freaking good. Jabbar Muhammad, some of those cats, they're really good on the DB spot. But I'll say this too. Dylan Gabriel is a really good college quarterback. He is. He's really good. He's going to put up good numbers this year. He is. He's not as good as Bo Nix was in that offense. That's what I believe. Now, somebody would say, well, that's not fair to say that. Look at his completion percentage through 2 weeks and stuff he's done. I mean, we all watched how many games Bo Nix played at Oregon the last 2 years. And again, it's just 2 weeks. Gabriel could explode this year. With the weapons they've got on offense and Will Stein calling plays, they could explode. But so far, it looks like to me that Dylan Gabriel is a really good quarterback. He's not elite great like Bo Nix was in that offense.
Yeah, they go on the road to Corvallis, Reser Stadium this week for the Civil War, which is obviously being played a lot earlier than it normally is, and then they've got a long way to go before they get to that Ohio State game in about a month. And
good news,
yeah, that team's got a long way to go.
Yeah, good news for them though is that honestly their schedule really isn't that like daunting.
Yeah.
They might be able to fix it. When I say fix it though, they may be able to fix it and be a playoff team. I really don't think this team is a natty contender. I just don't.
Yeah. All right. So recap of the top 12: number 1, Georgia; number 2, Ohio State; number 3, Texas; 4, Alabama; 5, Ole Miss; 6, Miami; 7, USC or 7, Tennessee; 8, USC; 9, Penn State; 10, Utah; 11, Oregon; and 12, Missouri. Now it's time for everybody's favorite game. We're going to have Lance Barton guess the spread. And if you guys have looked at the week 3 slate, it's not necessarily the best I've ever seen. So we're going to take our best shot here with 8 or 9 games and see where he is at. We're going to start off, just rip the Band-Aid off. Notre Dame at Purdue.
Oh, me. Notre Dame 10.5.
Notre Dame is favored by 11.5.
Okay.
It was 16.5 before Saturday's game. And Purdue had a bye week, so that's all Notre Dame.
Wow.
All Notre Dame. Yep.
Okay.
Friday night action. And it's a non-conference game, even though they're playing in the same conference. But Arizona at Kansas State.
This could be one of the better games of the weekend, by the way.
I hope so. I hope Arizona looked better than they did against Northern Arizona the other night.
Yeah. And I'll say this because we're talking about it. We're going to touch more on it this week, obviously. But Kansas State's pass defense looked really suspect against Tulane. I caught a good bit of that game. And I did not like what I saw about Kansas State's pass D. But obviously, with Noah Fafita and Tedero McMillan coming in, that could be interesting against K-State. K-State home 6.5.
K-State's favored by 7.5 right now.
Okay.
How about your boys, Alabama at Wisconsin?
Bama 17.
15.5.
Okay.
Yep.
That's not.
We thought this one was
kind of a dead number there.
Yeah, we thought this one was going to be a bigger game than it's really turned out to be. But Memphis going on the road to play Florida State.
The Noles better strap it up for old Norvell's older squad. It's another one. That's a Super Bowl for Memphis. Get a chance to go to Tallahassee there. God, dude, I would. I'm sure we could find it. I'm sure somebody's going to talk about it this week. I would love to know the difference in preseason, the look-ahead line early in the year, like before the season started and now.
Yeah.
But I'll say Florida State 7.5.
Florida State's favored by 5.5.
You're kidding.
Yep, under a touchdown.
It's under a tutty.
Yep.
Oh, shout out to my in-laws there, man. From Memphis, Tennessee, the 901.
Yep.
Okay.
Week 3 is a little suspect, like I said, and it's so suspect and so poor that game day is going to South Carolina for a noon kickoff between LSU and the Gamecocks.
That's in South Carolina. It's not in Baton Rouge.
At South Carolina.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was in Baton Rouge. It changes things, obviously. I'll say the Bengal Tigers are 9.5.
7.5.
Okay.
Couple points off
All
there.
right.
The game we mentioned just a little bit ago, Boston College at Mizzou.
Ooh. The Mizzou Fighting Tigers. Let's say Mizzou 2 tutties, 14.
16.5.
Okay. Man, maybe we're the ones that are idiots. I mean, even odds makers, they love some Mizzou right now, man. Good for them.
I know.
Good for them. Hey, how about Drink punching one in there late for the for the boosters?
For the boosters.
For the boosters, man. Gotta love it, dude. Gotta love it.
Yeah. Texas A&M at Florida.
In the swamp. Aggies 4.
Aggies by 4.
Ooh, I was dead on.
Yeah, and remember, Miami was only 2.5-point favorites in the swamp.
Yeah,
Aggies are 4.
Yep.
Whew. Backyard brawl, West Virginia at Pitt.
How about old former Bama QB that transferred to Pitt, Eli Holstein, slinging the rock around. Eli Holstein, by the way, was the number 2 quarterback coming out of the state of Louisiana, behind Arch Manning.
Not bad company.
Not bad company there. Let's see. Eli Holstein, Pitt, backyard brawl. So happy this game's being played. I will say Pitt is. I'll say, gosh, it's probably around a pick 'em.
West Virginia is favored on the road by 2.5 points.
Ooh. Okay. All right. On the road at Pitt.
I know I said we weren't going to talk about them again, but Colorado going on the road, playing at Colorado State this Saturday night on CBS.
Good Lord, dude. I ain't got a clue.
Jay Norvell trying to get some revenge for what happened last year in Boulder.
I mean, obviously, odds makers, I don't know. I didn't got a clue. Colorado 10.
Colorado is favored by 7.5 points.
Okay.
Earlier this afternoon, it was 9.5.
Ooh.
So people like the Rams already because the Buffs are done. How about this big one on NBC? A little Big Ten matchup here between two blue blood basketball teams. The IU Hoosiers heading to the Rose Bowl to take on UCLA.
IU by a billion. Kurt
hung 77 on Friday, school record.
Oh, dude, and Siggs at halftime. His interview. Gosh, love that guy, bro.
Yep.
I ain't got a clue, man. It's in the Rose Bowl. Is Indiana favored on the road, man? Is Indiana favored by Indiana 4.5?
Indiana's favored by 3 on the road.
Dude, give me the Hoosiers.
Indiana football.
Indiana football is going to the Rose Bowl and is favored on the road, man.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Last one here. UCF at TCU.
Ooh.
Sneaky good game.
Points, and more points. TCU 3.
TCU favored by 1.5 points right now.
Okay. All right. KJ Jefferson and the boys are coming. That's going. Yeah, I agree, dude. Again, in a week where there's not that type of game, Texas State, Arizona State Friday night, the Kansas State, Arizona games. Those are going to be your most competitive football games this weekend. Games like that.
Yep. All right, let's finish off with some quick hitters here. How about my boys from Syracuse, Fran Brown and the Qs getting the ranked win over Georgia Tech. Kyle McCord slinging it. He probably threw for 800 yards, but a big 31-28 win for the Qs.
Yeah, man. I mean, your boy Kyle McCord is lighting it up there, and I thought I saw Fran Brown on the sidelines with the champagne bottle that Ron Day sent him. But yeah, dude, that was great effort. What I was more impressed with. We've been talking about, especially you, that Kyle McCord was going to do well at Syracuse, and so far, man, that looks to be the case. Good for him. He was an outcast from Ohio State. Maybe he wasn't good enough to be the Buckeyes quarterback, but he's good enough to play at a lot places. And the fact that he landed at Q's and he's doing that well, good for him. But what I was more impressed with was I didn't think Q's would be able to stop the Georgia Tech running game, and they did exactly that. I don't give a rat's ass what that place is called. That's still the Carrier Dome. Like, I know in basketball, I was saying something about the Carrier Dome, and I think the JMA Dome or whatever they call it.
JMA Wireless, yep.
Yeah. Like some fan got on there and did the whole correcting me thing, and I was like, you won't find anybody who's going to sit there and talk about Syracuse and say the JMA Wireless Dome. No, that's the Carrier Dome, bruh. And that was a great performance by Fran Brown and the boys. So I was actually happy for you because you were all over them all summer, and I know you had a little bit of Q's +3 in that game. So good for you.
Yep, one of my few winners of the weekend. So Kansas State, we talked about them. Man, Tulane just pooped all over themselves in the fourth quarter. And I mean, props to John Summerall for having the team ready to go.
It's a good football coach, man.
Props to K-State for willing to go on the road and play them. That's not easy to go down there. I mean, ask Ole Miss last year. That was a fight for 3.5 quarters for Ole Miss last year.
Yeah, I agree. I'm again, this sounds hot take-ish, but I think right now the two hottest names in the old G5, John Summerall is going to be a P4 coach here real soon, and somebody's going to be lucky to get that guy. G.J. Kinney at Texas State's the other one. Either Baylor, Texas Tech, whoever fires their coach first, probably will snatch up old G.J. Kinney. That was what I watched. Kansas State had problems in the secondary on the old pass D. But that's the type of game. Week 2, you're somebody's Super Bowl. You're going, it's raining. It's weird conditions down there in the old Big Easy. They still came out with a win. Avery Johnson, really good at quarterback. So good win for Kansas State still.
How about Jonathan Smith, head coach at Michigan State, going on the road, 8.5, 9-point underdogs against Maryland, and coming out with a victory after just looking not great against FAU the week before. We thought, I don't know how many games they're going to win. They go on the road. They're 1-0 in the Big Ten now.
Maybe Aiden Childs.
Dude can coach ball.
Yeah, he can. Maybe Aiden Childs, and he was talking about, like, told everybody to take the over. Maybe he was talking about week 2 and not against FAU. But yeah, I mean, dude, Michigan State had double-digit penalties and multiple turnovers and still found a way to win. Like we say, some teams find ways to lose, and those are bad football teams. And some teams that are well-coached find ways to win. Michigan State found a way to win on the road in the Snake Pit in College Park against Maryland. That was a great win for Jonathan Smith.
Yeah. Kentucky sucks. We can say that. Awful. In week 2 versus week 6 or 7 like last year, but 10-point favorites, 9-point favorites at home against South Carolina, a team who looked terrible against
Old Dominion. Yards passing. Guys, I'm going to say it again. An SEC team, a Power 4 football team that's supposed to be a bowl team, had 30 yards passing. Yikes.
Yeah.
Against South Carolina. And it's not disrespect, South Carolina. This is called what it is. This ain't Georgia we're talking about. By the way, check schedule. Who's Kentucky play this week?
Yeah.
Whoo. They're booty, bro. Vandergrift.
You want to take a guess on that spread? Georgia at Kentucky?
Hey, your favorite saying. They can't make that line high enough, bro. What we got? Kentucky. Where's the game?
It's at Kentucky. Kroger Field. Dangerous place to play, right?
20, Georgia 27.
I think it's only like 23.5 or 24 last time I checked.
Oh, my gosh.
Might be my first bet of the week.
Yeah, that'll be a...
Kirby Smart hates Kentucky.
Well, he should hate him even more now because he's got guys leaving his program. Again, those depth pieces that we were talking about earlier are leaving his program and going to Kentucky. And I wonder if Dumas Johnson likes playing for Kentucky and not playing for Georgia. That's strange, man. But yeah, that was that was rough. And before we leave, got to mention it. Auburn.
I know you love this.
No, it's not even that. It's really not. It's really not.
How you gonna let freaking Cal Berkeley come into Jordan-Hare Stadium and
push you around?
Yeah, dude. I mean, honestly, again, I hate to do it to you, man. And Lord knows we've had our fair share. I mean, we just talked about Oregon. We've not been right on a lot of things. Peyton Thorne, he's not it.
No.
He's who I thought he was. He didn't look good. And he's just, it might be time to move on to Hank Brown.
Hey, man, by the way, I'm going to say this. We haven't been right on several things. Yes. We've been right on some things. Come on now.
Yeah.
We just concentrate really hard, and so do the people that like to text us and on Twitter about the things that we're wrong about. But you forget to text us about the things that we're right about. I'm just going to throw that out there. But yes, it's early, but I just don't know how. I don't know how Auburn. But dude, like we say that, this looks like the same Auburn team that last year gave Georgia all they wanted, gave Bama all they wanted, and lost to New Mexico State. Definitely did not expect that against Cal. Defense in the second half looked so much better, but the offense looked like trash the entire game. They couldn't block. They couldn't run the ball. Peyton Thorne looked awful. I don't care how good those receivers are. If Peyton Thorne's the one throwing the ball, that's rough. This would be a hell of a coaching job by Hugh Freeze, old brother Hugh, if he can somehow turn Peyton Thorne into being somewhat decent this year. But throwing 4 picks against Cal on your home field, that's awful, man. That's awful.
Yeah.
But what's more alarming is that they got pushed around.
Yeah.
So,
anything
else?
Nope, man. That's all we got for you guys.
We covered it all.
We covered it all. We covered all the hot spots. If we missed anything, let us know on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever you find us on social media. Make sure you're following. We appreciate you guys. We'll be back on Thursday to preview as many games as we can find that are going to be good in week 3. You know, one of those college football weeks, it looks like it's a down schedule and crazy things happen. So we'll do our best, and we'll see you guys on Thursday.